Story name.
Trapped in another world's a dystopian tale of survival and betrayal.
Shared by Ence Louise.
This is the last part of the story.
We will start from where we ended the story previous day.
You are the gardener, said the professor. Those red plants you see every now and then, those are what give this world its energies.
We need more of them, and you are going to tend to them.
I've never planted anything in my life, I said.
I don't know anything about it.
Oh, you're underselling yourself, said the professor.
Your hands.
They're glowing green.
You can't see that. No, of course not. You're not ready. But you'll know what to do.
And you already have plenty of work to do. By my count, there are already 23 human hearts here to plant. The professor looked over to the corner, where the monster had torn apart the man. Oh, my mistake.
24.
Outside, we heard a sudden burst of gunfire. Make that 32, said the professor.
I struggled to grasp just what was going on. It was overwhelming.
All of it. The plants are human hearts. I asked, torn between horror and amazement. Now you got it, Chief, said the professor, smiling. And the better, more virtuous the person, the more energy that her heart plant will release into the world.
The professor turned to the woman who came in with us. Your heart glows gold, my dear.
That is why you're the judge. You will travel the new world and find the purest hearts for the gardener to plant.
Next, he turned to Lauren.
And you, with the silver tongue.
You're a master of persuasion. Well, he's right about that, I thought, looking down at the pink flowers on the shirt I was wearing, which she had picked out for me.
You are the gatherer.
You must also return to the new world and convince these people, the ones whose hearts we need to gather at certain places, at certain times.
Their hearts must enter this world still beating for this to work.
The professor turned to the other man in our group of 4. And you are the engineer. Your brain flashes with electric energy. You will help me work out some technical issues I've encountered.
Our goal is ultimately to be able to control when and where the wormholes open. I achieved that once, 15 years ago, but that was when this world had far more energy.
So you didn't cause the wormhole to open up? Asked the engineer. The one that brought us here?
No, said the professor.
I was given advance warning of it, due to energy spikes coming from the new world. That's why I sent my agents in that world to set up the blockade. But why us?
Asked Lauren.
I know we have glowing body parts or whatever, but how did you know that? How did you know that we'd be there?
The professor shrugged.
I didn't.
But once you were there, I could detect your energies.
I knew your names.
I have means of communicating with the new world.
He pointed first to the cat in the crate, and then to the giant whirring machine.
It is powerful, but imperfect. That is one thing that the engineer will help me with. At any rate, once I realized that there would be a mass of people within range of the wormhole, I decided that now would be a good time for serious recruitment.
And the others?
Asked the judge.
The ones who got crushed in their cars.
Some were brought here to be soldiers. Some were brought to be plants. And you all were brought to serve your purposes. But some have no purpose whatsoever. Initially, there will be some unfortunate sacrifices. But once we have this world back to where it was, and once we can control the wormholes, we will bring everybody here. It will be paradise.
You've seen it yourselves now. You know it's true. I've got a question, I said.
What is it, Chief?
What's the deal with the cats here?
The professor shrugged.
They've been here forever.
For many billions of years. At some point, a few wandered into a natural wormhole, and so now they are in both places, the new world and this one. They are very useful. They are a link between worlds.
Now, if there are no more questions, it is almost time to get to work. You've had a long journey, so for the remainder of the day, you will rest.
Tomorrow evening, a small wormhole will briefly open, allowing the gatherer and the judge to return to the new world and begin their work. I believe that you will land somewhere in the Midwest USA, though it should become clearer where exactly as we get nearer. The gardener and the engineer will stay here with me and begin their work. That is, assuming that nobody objects to their assigned roles.
I took another look at the puddle in the corner.
No, I said.
We're good.
Asterisk.
Once we were outside, again, the guards let us past the bodies they had gunned down and over the peak of the mountain. There on the other side was a large plateau that held an incredible oasis.
All around it were the same black rocks and dreary landscape. Then, encircled by a ring of those red heart plants, were lush green fields and sparkling ponds. I could see trees overflowing with fruit. A small break in the clouds allowed the sun to shine through onto that one spot.
As soon as we were away from the bone hut, Hanky and Hattie settled back down. We walked as a group to the oasis, where several huts were waiting for us.
These ones weren't made of those black bones. Soon, said 759, waving his hand in front of him, the whole world will be like this. All will enjoy it.
For now, we will enjoy it ourselves.
Go and rest.
As soon as I stepped into the oasis, as though walking through some invisible barrier, I felt the rush of warmth run through my body. It wasn't the pure joy that I had felt before, when I had the wire stuck in my head, but it was a taste of that. I felt completely at peace.
Lauren and I found an empty hut and settled in with Hanky and Hattie.
It was the first time we were alone together since this started.
I was feeling really horny.
I made my move, leaning in for a kiss.
Lauren pushed me away. This is wrong, she said.
Not in the mood, I asked, disappointed. That's okay. We can rest first.
I am in the mood, said Lauren, and that's part of what's so wrong about it. I feel so good, but I shouldn't.
Not after everything that's happened. Babe, all of those people, crushed like fucking ants in their cars.
That one guy fed to the monster.
Those people gunned down outside the hut. And now we're supposed to go around collecting fucking human hearts to grow into fucking heart plants.
This is wrong. All of this is just so wrong. I felt a twitch of a bad feeling trying to fight its way into me. But we can bring everyone here eventually, I said. I'm not so sure about that, said Lauren.
I'm not so sure the professor is telling us the whole truth. Remember the way Hanky and Hattie were freaking out as soon as we got within 50 feet of him. We should take that as a warning. They know things that we don't.
But we're here, now, in this paradise, I said. You can feel it, right? You can see it. We can make the whole world like this, and even better. You saw what I saw there in the professor's hut.
You know what it would be like.
Even if it is true, said Lauren, how many people do we have to kill to make it happen? Good people, too, the more virtuous. The better, the professor said. How many heart plants will it take?
He never said. 1,000? 1,000,000? 1,000,000,000? All of the time.
And how many will get to enjoy this new world if that's really what will happen?
It's wrong. All around.
This isn't how things are supposed to be. I know that you can feel it.
I could.
It's what I had been feeling all along until I stepped into the oasis, when that voice inside me died, and the warmth replaced it.
I concentrated. Okay, I said. What do we do? If we don't follow orders, the professor will have us killed.
One way or another.
And they'll go on without us anyway.
Lauren reached down and gave Hattie a scratch under her chin.
Then we'll have to kill the professor, she said.
Asterisk.
Does anybody have any ideas on how we can do that? Because I see zero chance of it happening, and I'm scared as hell about it.
But I know we have to try, and I feel like we only have until tomorrow, when the wormhole opens, and Lauren is supposed to go through while I stay here.
God, I'm scared.
When I was a kid, I watched my best friend die.
There was a stream in the middle of the woods behind my house. It marked my parents' property line. Then, on the other side of the stream was an old treehouse. I don't know who put it there, but I never saw anybody else come near it, so Sealers and I claimed it as our own. It was in rough shape when we found it, but it had good bones, and over the years we patched in the rotten parts with bits of wood from Dad's workshop. Each summer, Sealers would come over nearly every day and we'd go to that tree house. We had all sorts of forbidden things there, stashed in an airtight plastic bin. A pint of whiskey, a pack of smokes, a few of Dad's old Playboys, things like that. We'd work on repairing the tree house, taking breaks now and then to look through the artifacts from the strange, alien world of adults and make up stories. One year, when we were 12, we got a late start. I went on a 2-week vacation with my family right after school was over, and by the time I got back, spring was in full bloom. By the time we finally got to work, the path back to the tree house was overgrown, and we had to spend a couple of days clearing it with old Del Army Navy store machetes. When we did make it back, we saw that there were a few new spots of rot, but otherwise, she looked in good shape. We decided that we'd make the repairs later, because we were eager to make up for lost time. We wanted to get back to the enclosure of the tree house, our world. I started climbing the ladder. "Careful," said Sealers from below. "That next step looks rotten." I saw that he was right, so I skipped that step and finally made it to the top. I unlatched the door, pushed it open, and stepped inside, feeling that thrill of having something that nobody else in the world has, or even knows about. A minute later, I saw Sealers' head appear, and then he was all the way up on the platform, outside the tree house. He was smiling, and then, suddenly, he was screaming, clutching his neck, running inside and slamming the door behind him. He swatted wildly at his neck, his eyes wide with fear, and cried out in pain. "What's wrong?" I shouted. "Something stung me," he said. But I think I got it. It hurt. Then we heard it, through the door, the buzz of an angry swarm of hornets. "Oh shit," I said. "There's gotta be a nest around here." They sound pissed. "What do we do?" Sealers wiped his eyes dry, where a few tears had formed. "They can't get us in here," he said. "They'll go away after a while. Then we sneak past them, get some spray, and nuke the assholes." But he was wrong. They could get us in there. I don't know how exactly they got in, but they got in. Before we knew what was happening, we were both covered in hornets. I twisted in pain from dozens of stings, unable to escape, unable to think. I saw Sealers stagger back, and then he was up against a rotten section of the wall, and then the wall collapsed, and he was falling down. I ran to the opening that Sealers' body had created and jumped. I landed on my feet, a few yards beyond Sealers. His head was resting on a rock, with a stream of blood forming, and his neck was bent at an odd angle. He wasn't moving. I had lost some of the hornets in the jump, but still others were crawling on me, jamming their stingers into my flesh. Sealers. I screamed, but I knew that he was dead. "Come on, man. Run." I ran, in unbelievable pain, through the woods, back to my house with tears and snot streaming down my face. I kept imagining a swarm of hornets following me, and for many years afterwards, I would have nightmares about them. I would see one slip in through the crack under my bedroom door, then another, and then dozens, hundreds, thousands. The door would swing open, and Sealers would be there, dead, but still somehow standing covered in hornets. Asterisk. Lauren and I are back on planet Earth. We didn't kill the professor. He is still there, in that horrible world, with his minions, and he is pissed, with the fury of 10 billion hornets from hell. Asterisk. We decided to talk to the judge first. We found her sitting under a tree, thoughtfully chewing on a green fruit, the juices dripping down her chin. All around us, people were walking in the sunlight, holding hands. Some of them were still in their riot gear. It was a very strange sight. "Mind if we join you?" asked Lauren. "Sure," said the judge. "Have a seat."
It's so beautiful here, isn't it?
It was, and I had to keep fighting that feeling of deep peace to stay focused on our mission.
Yes, said Lauren, sitting down next to the judge. Can I ask you something?
Shoot, said the judge.
Lauren lowered her voice. Well, you're supposed to be this amazing judge of character. So what do you think of the professor?
The judge frowned.
What do you think of the professor?
She asked. I started to get nervous. On the way over there, we could hear little flashes of conversation from the people walking around the fields. Much of it was Professor this and Professor that, all about how great he was.
Like they were brainwashed, or under some kind of spell.
It seemed dangerous to share our plan with other people. At the same time, I knew we couldn't do it alone.
Lauren, I said.
Maybe we shouldn't.
It's all right, said Lauren.
Then she turned back to the judge.
What do I think of the professor?
I think that at a minimum he's not telling us the whole truth. And he's probably lying about everything. I don't trust him. At all. I held my breath as the judge looked around silently for a moment. Then she spoke. Thank God. I thought I was the only one.
My name's Darcy, by the way, and I run a bookstore in Michigan.
Or I did anyway.
The only thing I've ever judged is a pie contest, so I can tell you I don't know where all this judge stuff is coming from. And another thing I can tell you is that professor guy is a creep. No, he's a monster, killing all those people.
Even if what he says is true, there was no need for that elaborate massacre. The guy is sadistic. I know that much. I let out my breath in relief. Then you're with us? I asked. With you? We're going to stop him. We're going to stop the professor, and then get out of this place. Darcy laughed. And what's the plan? The three of us roll in that death hut of his and ask him nicely to stop, and let us go. Well, I admitted, we don't have much of a plan right now. We're going to talk to the engineer next. I'd like to get one of the guards on our side, but I think their brains are too fried. I think maybe they got a special treatment from the professor that we didn't get.
But what matters is that you're with us, said Lauren. That you understand what has to be done.
Darcy nodded.
Good, said Lauren, standing up.
She pointed across the field to our hut. We'll gather as many as we can and meet at that hut at midnight. You'll be there?
Darcy nodded again. Then she reached down, picked a fruit off the ground, and tossed it to Lauren. Here, she said. Tastes like shit, but I think it's what they make those drinks from.
It'll give you energy, keep you alert. You'll need that.
Thanks, I said, and we headed off to find the engineer.
We tried several huts before finding him. He swung the curtain open, and there he was, standing completely naked with a huge grin on his face. Hey, he said.
The gatherer and the gardener. Come in, come in.
You guys want to do a four-way? I got one of those guard chicks in the bathroom taking a shower. I bet she'll be good to go once she comes out.
We've already been at it 3 times.
This place fucking rules.
Lauren, I said. It's okay, she said to me, before addressing the engineer.
We need your help. Sure.
What do you need?
What do you think about the professor? The prof? Shit, that guy's cool.
Look, in that other place, the New World or whatever, I was a mechanic.
A car mechanic. Wasn't a bad life as far as lives go over there, but listen, I haven't been laid in about a year. Now the pussy is throwing itself at me over here. I'm some kind of big shot, I guess. You guys too. Everybody's talking about how great we all are. Doesn't it bother you?
Asked Lauren. All those people that died. All those people we're supposed to kill.
The engineer shrugged. Sucks to be them. Some guys get all the luck. Looks like this time with those guys.
Lauren, I said, we should go. Before she could respond, the curtain to the bathroom slid open, and there was a naked woman, dripping wet, standing there.
I recognized her. Amelia, our guard, ate her too. She was the one we'd talked to before going in to see the professor.
Whatever you're thinking of doing, said Amelia, don't.
How? Said the engineer. So you're not into a four-way? I thought for sure you would be.
They're planning something, said Amelia. They're plotting against the professor.
Then she turned to Lauren.
This is your only warning.
We need your help, said Lauren. Whatever he did to you somewhere deep down, you have to know that it isn't right. Any of it.
You're not a killer, Amelia.
But that's what he would have you do.
My name is 802, said Amelia.
You had better leave now. And if I so much as catch another whiff of this, you'll be dead. I don't care how important you are. No one is more important than the professor.
Think it over, said Lauren. Search your heart. And if you do that, and find what I know is there, we'll be meeting it.
Lauren, I said, for fuck's sake, stop.
We'll be meeting at our hut, near the fish pond, at midnight.
Let's go now, I said.
So a no four-way then? Asked the engineer. A bit after midnight, Lauren and I sat alone in our hut, with Hanky and Hattie sleeping on the bed. Nobody had showed.
Maybe the professor is telling the truth, I said half-heartedly. Maybe this really is for the best.
Maybe not for everybody, but for enough people that it's justified.
We sat in silence for a minute. Then Lauren spoke up, seeming so sad and tired. We'll have to do it ourselves. I frowned. How are we going to do that, baby? How are we going to take on the professor and his pet monster and all the guards who are now no doubt watching us like hawks after your little chat back there with Amelia Sara 802? How?
I'll tell you what I'd do, said a voice from the doorway.
I looked up in shock to see the engineer.
I'd blow up that machine thingy that he's got everything hooked up to. Seems like the engine of this whole operation. Name's Jeff, by the way.
You came,
said Lauren, standing up and giving him a hug. Thankfully, he was wearing some clothes now. And then we put several bullets in his brain, said a voice from behind Jeff. It was Amelia, and she was, in fact, holding several guns. And you, said Lauren. You searched your heart. Sort of, said Amelia.
Jeff and I were getting some outdoor exercise when we saw it.
Those plants.
They're not really plants. Or they are.
But then they turn into something else.
They turn into those monsters.
The headless ones, with the snake bodies and the black bone arms and legs.
That's what the professor is up to. I don't know why.
But he's raising an army of those things. It can't be for anything good. Pretty fucked up shit, said Jeff.
Gave me the heebie-jeebies. I couldn't even come after I saw it happen.
Just sort of dead in the water at that point.
The curtain to the hut slid open one more time. Sorry I'm late, said Darcy. What's the plan? The room fell silent, except for the snores coming from Hattie as we thought it over.
We do it tomorrow, I said, when Lauren and Darcy are supposed to go through the wormhole. We wait until after the wormhole opens, so we have a way out if it goes sideways.
First, we get the professor.
Shoot him in the head.
Then Jeff gets the machine, while the rest of us cover for him. I don't know what it is, but I don't think we want to leave it behind. Then we get the hell out of here. It sounded almost easy when I said it like that.
Asterisk.
The next evening, we were gathered together again in the professor's bone hut. As before, there was the machine sitting on a table, wired up to 4 people strapped to chairs, and then the cat, and finally the professor. A few guards were in there with us, including 7059, who had been with us since the traffic jam, and 802, our woman on the inside.
And the monster. The headless snakebone monster was in there as well. I felt the pistol pressed up against my tailbone, and prayed that it didn't make a visible bulge. In a few moments began the professor. The wormhole will appear 3 feet to my right. To clarify, and because I believe in full transparency, I am able to predict where the wormhole will open in this world with 100% accuracy, far in advance. That is why I chose to construct my hut here. I have been planning this for some time. As to where the hole will open on the other side, that is less clear, but I have narrowed it down to somewhere in New Mexico.
I looked over at the engineer, Jeff. He was trying to act casual, leaning against the machine, but he looked obvious to me. Sweat was pouring down his face. The professor went on. It is imperative that we do this now. The gatherer and the judge will make their way to the new world, accompanied by the present guards. I do wish that I had more time to brief you, but the next wormhole will not open for some time, and our work here is urgent. You will learn your roles as you go. There's nothing to it, really, and I know that you'll all catch on in no time.
The first person in the row of chairs began to shake, at first gently, and then more violently.
It is beginning, said the professor.
Wait, said Lauren.
I want to say goodbye to my cats first. They are just outside. That wasn't any secret.
We could all hear them wailing away. The gardener and I have decided that they will stay here, so that at least he can send messages to me.
The professor shrugged.
That's fine, but please hurry.
And there's no need to worry about communication, as we have implemented a very sophisticated system. But I agree that the cats will likely feel more at home here. I'll be right back, said Lauren.
And that was the signal, or it was supposed to be. Wait, said Darcy. I saw Lauren shoot her a panicked look.
This wasn't the plan. My heart was up in my throat as I reached behind me for my pistol.
The second person in the line of chairs started to shake, as the first person gushed blood from his nose. They are going to try to kill you, Professor, said Darcy.
She sold us out.
At once, the 7 guards in the room raised their guns and pointed them at various people, including me and Lauren. Amelia played along.
Is that so? Asked the professor, grinning. Who was planning on killing me? He looked at me first.
Say it ain't so, Chief.
Darcy opened her mouth to speak.
Then there was a bang and a mist of blood sprayed from the side of her head.
She dropped to the ground.
Then there were 6 guns pointed at Amelia, who had fired the shot. 802, said the professor, shaking his head. That's too bad.
You would have made a fine soldier, but I may let you live yet. Tell me, who else was planning on killing me? The idea is laughable, but can't go unpunished.
Just me, said Amelia. What you're doing, I've seen it. I've seen what those plants turn into.
They turn into them. She pointed at the monster in the corner. You lied.
To me and everyone else.
I had my hand behind my back on the grip of the gun. I didn't know what to do.
Is that true? Asked Lauren in an amazingly calm voice. Is that why you would have me gathering pure hearts for you? To turn them into monsters?
Why? 7 out of 99, said the professor.
Shoot 802 in the head.
There was a gunshot, and then Amelia was dead. Have you been lying to us?
Lauren pressed.
All of us. You're soldiers, too. Have you told them what you're doing?
The third person in the line of chairs started to shake. It's not a lie, said the professor.
If you do as I say, you'll know glories unlike you can possibly imagine, dear.
Do the plants turn into monsters? Asked Lauren.
She was in litigation mode. She had the bastard up on the stand. I just hoped it would work. They're not monsters, gatherer. They're beautiful. But that's what you're doing, right?
Raising an army of them.
What are you going to do with that army? The fourth person in the line of chairs started to shake, as the previous 3 bled profusely from their noses.
The professor sighed. I'm going to take over the world, he said.
We are going to take over the world. Not this miserable world we're in now, with its empty parlor tricks. The real deal. We will rule over it justly, for the first time since it came into existence. I could see the confusion spread over the guards' faces as I gripped my gun tighter.
Off a few feet to the professor's right, I saw a pinhole of pure blackness appear in the air.
The wormhole was opening. "Is that true, boss?" asked 759. "That's what the game was this whole time."
"Raise an army of these things to bring over to the other side?"
"Yes," said the professor. "But everything I've told you is true. Once we conquer it, Earth will become a paradise." The monster in the corner of the hut took a step forward out of the shadows. For the first time, I saw the head clearly. It was the head of Sealers, my childhood friend who had broken his neck when he fell from the tree house. When I saw its face, I felt a terror unlike I had ever known.
"Please," said the monster, walking towards me.
"We can be together again. Forever. We can all be together forever. We don't have to die.
We can live again and again and again." I pulled the gun out without thinking, cocked it, and fired it straight into where I guessed the thing's chest would be.
The bullet hit.
The monster let out a terrible shriek and shriveled up on the ground.
That shot set off a blur of events.
The guards began shooting, some at each other, others at the professor, some at me.
I felt a sharp and incredible pain in my shoulder, like 10,000 hornets stinging me at once, and I knew that I'd been shot. On impact, I dropped my gun and fell to my knees. The wormhole was getting bigger.
Some of the guards were falling down, dead. The professor was shaking as bullet after bullet hit him, but he wasn't dropping. Lauren was rushing towards me and shouting something.
"Jeff," she was saying.
"Do it."
Now. My eyelids felt heavy, but I struggled to keep them open. I watched Jeff unload his pistol into the whirring machine, where all of the wires were coming from. Sparks flew through the air, and there was a burst of light as the machine exploded, and then Jeff was flying through the air, on fire. "We have to go now," Lauren said, pointing at the wormhole. The gunshots were still going off. Guards were coming in from outside, and everyone was shouting. I forced my eyes open with a great effort, and I saw it. The professor dropped to the ground. As soon as he did, the room fell into shocked silence, until we heard the first pop. I looked over and saw that, next to the smoldering machine, the first person in the line of chairs had a spaghetti mess of blood and brains where his head should have been. I actually saw it happen to the second person. Her head popped like a balloon. "Now," said Lauren, "the wormhole is starting to close." I saw that it was in fact starting to get smaller now, as the third head exploded. "What about the cats?" I asked. "We can't leave them here." "Got him it," said Lauren. "You're right." She shoved her gun in my good hand and told me to stay here. Then she ran out of the hut. That's when the professor arose. Black bones began tearing out of his skin, dripping with green slime. Bones grew out of his chest, his arms, his back. The most monstrous one of them all had revealed his true form. He roared as a volley of gunfire tore into him. One by one, he began tearing the guards apart, easily, with long black claws, as if they were junk mail. Soon, they were all dead, and he turned to me. "You really screwed the pooch here, Chief," he said, smiling with hideous black fangs dropping a string of green drool. "We could have had it all. Now I'll have to plant your heart myself." He reached a clawed hand toward my chest, as I fired a few useless rounds into his. Just as I was prepared to die, I saw a flurry of motion, and heard some wild sounds over the ringing in my ears. Then I saw what was happening. Hanky and Hattie were attached to the side of the professor's face, tearing away at it, and he was howling in pain. "We have to go," screamed Lauren, back at my side. "The wormhole's almost closed, and outside it there are millions of those monsters out there, closing in. We have to go right now." "We can't leave the kiddies," I said. "We have to." Lauren grabbed me and lifted me to my feet with an amazing strength. She shoved me into the wormhole, and the last thing I saw before going through to the other side was 759 rising to his feet, with his guts hanging out, and charging at the professor. "Asterisk,"
On the other side, I saw Lauren start to emerge.
But the hole was closing too fast. She was too big. I grabbed onto her with both arms, though my right arm was in such incredible pain that I don't know how it was still moving.
I pulled with all of my strength, and inch by inch, she came through, all the way. I looked up at the rapidly closing hole and started crying.
Hanky and Hattie.
The hole was about the size of a watermelon now.
There was nothing that could be done.
Then a ball of fur emerged from it, gripped by a human hand.
The hand had a tattoo on it. 7 height 59.
The fur ball dropped to the ground.
It was followed quickly by a second one. Then the hand was gone, and so was the wormhole.
Asterisk.
I'm at a hospital somewhere in New Mexico right now, recovering from my gunshot wound.
Lauren is at a nearby hotel with our cats.
I am so grateful that we all made it out, but I can't stop thinking about those who didn't.
And my nightmares have taken a different shape.
I'm back in my childhood room, and there, like before, is a hornet coming in under the door.
Then thousands of them. The door swings open, but this time its sealers is the snakebone monster, and behind him is an army of them, millions upon millions. I feel something behind me, and whip my head around.
It's the professor, in his monstrous, unholy form. His black fangs are dripping with green slime. Hey there, Chief.
It's not wise for me to be posting this. The professor has agents in this world.
I don't know how many.
I think that we destroyed his main means of communication when we destroyed the machine, but who knows? I was able to post across worlds just by my cat rubbing on my phone. It's not wise for me to be posting this, but I have to.
First, I have to let you all know that we're okay, or at least alive. So many of you showed such warm concern for us throughout this. I can't let you down by going silent before I tell you how it's turned out.
The other reason is that I need you to be prepared. The professor is still there, I think, alive and fuming in that other world. And he has an army. A massive army of monsters. His plan is to bring them here and take over this world.
We have slowed him down, I think, but we haven't stopped him. Thank you all.
If I find out anything major, I will update again.
Until then, take care. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.